Do you sometimes take things way more personally than you should? Well, if you're like me, you do. And if you are constantly going into fight or flight, again, that is me. We have a wonderful solution for you today. Paul is going to tell you all about how to not take things so personally, how to not see things as attacks when they aren't, and how to just have a more stress less or stress reduced experience. This is the episode for me, and I'm sure it's the episode for you. Stay tuned. This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod. And now, onto our show. Today's episode is brought to you by Corded.io. Are you looking for agents to join your brokerage or team? Now, as a real estate recruiter, I can tell you the answer is always yes. But most agents aren't looking to move right now. So how do you know who to contact? Well, what if I were to tell you there's a recruiting and retention tool powered by artificial intelligence that shows you exactly which agents in your local market are looking to leave their brokerage right now, and which agents at your own firm are also looking to leave you? Now, I've been recruiting realtors for 15 years and I've hired over 2,000 agents. I can tell you with no exaggeration, this is the tool I've been waiting for. Corded's AI looks for trends across dozens of variables for each agent in your market and shows you which agents they believe are likely to move. Not only does it do that, but Corded's AI went and visited my recruiting website and read everything I offer. So now when I'm recruiting, Corded's AI tells me exactly what to say based on that agent's needs and what my brokerage can offer. It even writes emails for me. I've never seen anything like it, and I use it every single day. Now, if you are looking to grow your brokerage, Corded.io is the best tool out there. Visit Corded.io to schedule a demo. Again, that's Corded.io. And now, onto the show.
What it is you feel. Notice what comes up for you as you listen in to what I'm about to describe. Imagine yourself on a call with a partner, an investor, a broker, a client, or even your spouse. They say something small, casual, maybe even well-intended. But the second it lands, your body tightens, your chest compresses, your jaw clenches, your tone sharpens. Suddenly, you feel as if you're on the defense, explaining, justifying, or worse, you go silent. Immense resentment fills your system. You become passive aggressive. Maybe outright aggressive. And within seconds, the conversation isn't about the deal or the original intention of the conversation. It's about you, your competence, your intelligence, your worth, your credibility. You replay the conversation for hours, sometimes days. You draft emails in your head that you never send. You mentally prosecute the other person like they're on trial. But here's the most painful part of this experience. When you continue to find yourself stuck on the offensive, constantly subject to one personal attack after the next, or should I say, perceived personal attack. Deals continue to slow. Trust erodes. Relationships fracture. Teams stop being honest. Partners stop bringing you hard truths. And at home, both with your spouse and your kids, well, you're distant, short, emotionally unavailable. All because something felt like an attack, even if it wasn't meant to be. Today's episode is about why that happens, and more importantly, how to diffuse the flood of negative, harsh, anger-filled emotions that cost you your edge, energy, and impact. Welcome back to another episode of the Keeping It Real podcast. Once a month, I have the absolute honor to do a special guest episode called The Inner Game of Real Estate Success. My name is Paul Salter. I'm a mindset and performance coach with over 16 years of experience helping my clients get unstuck, out of their own way, to unlock their potential. I use hypnosis to help my clients unlearn and dismantle the destructive patterns of thinking, feeling, believing, and behaving that keep them stuck in a pattern of 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And once a month, typically the last Thursday of every month, though interestingly enough, this year, both Thanksgiving and Christmas have conflicted with those last Thursdays, hence the subtle change in date this episode and the past one. But once a month, last Thursday of the month, we're going live to dig into the deep level, emotionally charged, identity attached topics that are really holding you back. The origin of the limiting beliefs and sabotaging behaviors that typically occur beneath conscious awareness, holding you back for more confidence, happiness, impact, and income. Every week, twice a week, if you love this content, this is the 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th episode I've had the opportunity to join the Keeping It Real podcast for. But if you're liking what you're hearing, I do have my own podcast. It's called the Scratch Golfers Mindset Podcast. Here's a little secret. It's a personal development podcast disguised as a golf mindset podcast. You don't have to play golf or know anything about golf to listen in and find immense value from both myself and the wide array of expert guests I bring on every week. So if you're liking this, you need another strong personal development podcast in your library, I recommend you check it out. Today, we're talking about your pattern of taking things personally, constantly feeling on edge, like you're under attack, which leads to you being reactive rather than responsive, on the defensive rather than diligently and patiently on the offensive. When you feel attacked, it's rarely about the present moment. It's typically because of one or more of these 3 things. Number 1, your nervous system is wired for threat. Number 2, there's an element of truth in the statement that was shared with you. Number 3, there's an incongruency between who you say you are and how you're showing up. So let's begin to unpack these to bring some clarity and, most importantly, awareness as to why you are prone to react this way in so many situations that don't warrant this offensive attack, this verbal assault that typically plays out after the fact that leaves you stuck feeling regret, sadness, ashamed, guilty, disappointed in yourself, having to make amends, apologize one time after the next. So let's talk about it. First and foremost, like I mentioned, if you're experiencing this feeling like you're always on attack, taking things personally, your nervous system is just locked into and stuck in fight or flight. Past experiences have taught you that criticism equals danger. Typically, if you struggle to truly hear and accept criticism, there is a breadcrumb of past experiences that has highlighted for you or made you feel to believe that when you are criticized, you are not enough. And if you are not enough, you are not worthy. You are not deserving. Maybe of love, maybe of belonging, maybe of connection, maybe of money. Maybe you grew up needing to perform to be accepted. Maybe you were only praised when you produced results. Maybe you learned early that mistakes had consequences, and sometimes unfair, unjust consequences. And as a result, you got stuck in this perpetual pattern of being shamed, dismissed, or emotionally invalidated. So now every time you receive criticism or something that is perceived as criticism, it's an actual threat on your identity, your well-being. And your nervous system reacts well before logic gets involved. Number 2, and this is a big one. Listen closely here. When you are consistently engaged in this pattern of taking things personally, one major reason this might exist is because there is truth in that statement. This one stings. Sometimes the reason you take things so personally and that it hits so hard is because it's something you already deep down believe about yourself, believe to be true, yet you hate it and you work so hard to deny, repress, or avoid ever connecting with the part of yourself you hate. Maybe it's around your lack of organization, your procrastination tendencies, your over-promising and under-delivering pattern. You're not available as you say you are. Deals feel sloppy, messy, rushed, come together at the last minute. And I'm reminded of a funny story. I call it funny now. It wasn't funny in the moment. For the longest time, there was a prominent person in my life who drove me batshit crazy. I felt she was incredibly manipulative, always finagling the system, having extra conversations between working parties to get things to land in her favor. Things would change last second. We would do X, Y, and Z, but last minute they'd become A, B, and C. And it just felt like these manipulative tendencies were growing more pronounced the longer and more time I spent with this individual. It wasn't until a couple years later that this individual was no longer in my life that I opened my eyes and my heart to the rude awakening and truth of the matter. I too had those manipulative tendencies. I too wanted things to fall in my favor, work out to my advantage, or be more convenient for me and how I was choosing to spend my time. What was happening here, and this is the key point I want you to take, is that when a behavior or something that is said by another person triggers you, it's a mirror of a part of yourself you don't like, have disowned, or are trying to hide. And this phenomenon is known as the holographic universe. And it's a theory of the universe that proposes every small piece of a hologram contains the information of the entire image. You break it apart, and each fragment still holds the whole, just expressed differently. What does that mean? You are not only confident or only anxious or only disciplined. You're a collection of multiple parts. Confident, anxious, patient, selfish, optimistic, angry, compassionate, jealous, loving. All of these coexist within you. Different parts, well, they show up in different moments at different intensities. Every part is real. Every part belongs. When someone's behavior sets you off, or when a comment is made about a part of you you have actively worked to dismiss, repress, or deny, whether it be laziness, anger, neediness, sloppiness, it's often because you are hiding that part of you. It is true. You do have that part or those tendencies. It may not be the trait that you lead with, might not be the characteristic you're most proud of. It may even be the trait that you tried hardest to deny or hide. But it is there. And when the outside world activates it, you react, not to them, but to the part of you that feels exposed. And a quick sidebar, a book I cannot recommend enough that further dives into this topic of your triggers are your teachers is called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. This book describes the phenomenon of the holotropic universe. It introduces more depth and detail around shadow work, and I can't recommend it enough. It's something I recommend for the vast majority of my clients, and it just paints the picture that other people are your mirrors, and what triggers you can be your teacher if you choose to look inward with courage and curiosity to confront, accept, acknowledge, and begin doing the work to let go and integrate. Back on track here, the third reason you are so prone to taking things personally is there's an incongruency between who you say you are and how you're showing up. This is the quiet killer. You see yourself as disciplined, reliable, high integrity, a strong leader. But lately, you're cutting corners. You're avoiding hard conversations. You're rushing decisions, operating from fatigue, not clarity. This internal gap, who you think you are and say you are versus who you're showing up as and acting as, that gap creates doubt. It also creates emotional fragility, meaning you are more on edge and more prone to being reactive when you hear something that ruffles your feathers or confronts a part of you that you are not willing to own and accept. And when that doubt exists, when that emotional fragility exists, the littlest of comments can set you off because they feel like a massive threat to your integrity, credibility, and identity. So you fill those gaps with defensiveness. Underneath all of this, underneath this perpetual pattern of defensiveness, taking things personally, is a deep-rooted feeling, I'm not enough. So I must prove it. There's a client of mine, born and raised in Switzerland. And at the age of 5, he switched villages. He moved to another part of the country. And new kid, new school. And one of his earliest childhood moments, something we unpacked together during one of our coaching sessions, was a couple weeks into school. He's just started kindergarten. There was an incident where one of the kids in his class was picking on another kid, and inevitably something happened where something valuable in the classroom that belonged to the teachers broke. My client, this new kid, just blending in, didn't stand out at all, suddenly became the mark of blame for this incident. Why? Because it was easy. The teacher was out of the room for a moment. Everybody blamed the new kid. Even though other classmates in this instance knew it wasn't him, nobody spoke up for him. So here he is a couple weeks into a new village, a new school, and he's instantly blamed, made to feel not only angry, sad, confused, and disappointed, but embarrassed in front of the whole class. All he wanted to do was fit in, belong, feel accepted by this new peer group. And he was singled out, blamed for something he didn't do. Of course, now as adults, we can look back and see that perhaps it's no big deal. It's not that significant. But for that 5, 6-year-old little boy, it was everything. And it's moments like this where beliefs form. This little boy learned that he had to be on the defensive. He started taking things personally. And we fast forward, not years, decades later. He's incredibly reactive and defensive in the workspace. He's climbed the corporate ladder of his engineering consulting firm. But where for the longest time he constantly faced negative and harsh feedback was his ability to lead, his ability to effectively communicate and take criticism. He was constantly in the CEO and his supervisor's office going through this pattern of, well, I don't like how she said that about me, or I can't believe he said that about me, taking things personally. And it was costing him dearly. Energy, reputation, progress, connection, relationships. All because this incident shaped this belief that he wasn't enough as he is. He had to defend himself, constantly on the defense. Now, that's just one example. But having done this with thousands of clients over the years, I tell you this example is not unique to him. It runs rampant in the clients I work with. It looks a little different in every situation, of course. But at the heart of this, I'm not enough is I've got to prove myself, or if I'm questioned and I already believe I'm not enough, I'm exposed. So therefore, I've got to defend. I got to protect my name, protect my honor. And all of this lack of enoughness translates to I'm not good enough. I haven't earned my spot. I could be found out. I need to prove myself. So when someone begins to challenge you, even subtly, or even something that's not meant to be a challenge, yet you perceive it to be because your nervous system is stuck in fight or flight, your system, your subconscious, your nervous system interprets it as a threat to survival. So that's why you interrupt. You over-explain. You dominate conversations. You overwork. You over-control. You struggle mightily to receive feedback. Anger becomes your armor. Defensiveness becomes protection. And reactivity, it becomes identity preservation. So let's talk about some common examples of where and how this shows up. I want to push those buttons of pain a little bit more. In your day-to-day business, whether you're the team lead or just an employee right now, perhaps you suffer from defensive reactions to questions from investors and teammates. You overreact to broker or agent feedback. You micromanage your teams instead of trusting them. You're guilty of burning bridges with vendors, partners. You need to win conversations with team members instead of feeling aligned and on the same page. You make impulsive decisions after feeling disrespected. In leadership, it might become so blatant that team members stop challenging you. It's no longer a safe space for honest feedback and discussion. Problems go underground and culture becomes a thing of the past. Even more, you start to bring this business stress home. You're emotionally shut down, constantly irritable. You've got a short fuse with your spouse, your kids, and you ultimately just feel misunderstood and alone, even if you're at the top. So my question for you is, what is taking things personally costing you? How is continuing to take things personal holding you back? Well, I'll tell you, this reactivity costs you energy, clarity, trust, strategic thinking, emotional safety with others, long-term relationships, and perhaps most damaging, it keeps you stuck in survival mode when your next level of success requires regulation, presence, and leadership. So what do we do? Remember, this is a pattern. This is a learned pattern of believing, feeling, thinking, and behaving, which means it can be unlearned. Feeling attacked doesn't mean you're weak. It means something inside of you is asking for attention. And the goal isn't to eliminate emotion. You are an emotional being. The goal is to shift from unconscious reaction to conscious response, to reclaim power, choice, and autonomy, and to respond from alignment, not fear. This looks like nervous system regulation, identity level belief rewiring, learning to pause instead of perform. But before you can do any of that, you've got to identify the pattern. And I have an imagination, if you listened in today, and this conversation resonated with you, you're beginning to bring more clarity to a pattern you knew existed already than you've had ever. And that's a great first step. Identifying, acknowledging. You can't just skip to the letting go. You've got to acknowledge this pattern. You've got to accept it. And that can be challenging to do. That, yes, I take things personally. I'm on the attack. I'm defensive. I'm rude, critical, reactive, harsh, irritable. You've got to sit with that for a little while. And spoiler alert, there it is. It might be fucking uncomfortable. But this is who you are. And this is where you are now. From there, and this is why I love a journaling practice. This is why I constantly share prompts and reflective questions on my episodes here. It's just to give you some tools to better dig in through a lens of non-judgmental curiosity. Think about the last few things that triggered you. You took personally, that you reacted from a place of defensiveness. What was the incident? What was said? Why do you feel you reacted that way? Was there truth in what was said? Get curious here. And always underneath all of this, what is taking things personally costing you? And perhaps even more, the question isn't necessarily why do I get triggered? The real question is, what are you still trying to protect? And what would happen if you didn't have to? And what I want to encourage you to keep in mind as you move forward are the 4 P's. Pause. The moment you feel the cascade of emotion flooding throughout every cell in your body when you've been triggered, pause. Find your breath. Begin to process what you're experiencing. Go one step further and name it, label it. I feel angry. I feel rageful. I feel sad. I feel called out. So you're pausing, then you're processing. And that pause and processing in and of itself should help you make a pivot. It's the 3rd P, and how you choose to move forward. No longer from a place of unconscious fast reaction. The pause and processing is the process in and of itself of allowing you to shift to conscious response. So you pause, you process, you pivot on how you're going to proceed or what you're going to say, and then you literally proceed. Pause, process, pivot, proceed. 4 P's to show up better. To let go of taking things personally. I mean, that's the first of the 4 agreements. Don't take things personally. Another good book recommendation for you. Because you and I both know continuing to be stuck in this pattern of taking things personally, locked in fight or flight, always on the defensive, is costing you dearly in your income, your impact, your relationships, your fulfillment, your happiness, your confidence, your success. It's got to go. And if I can help you let go, I invite you to use the link in the show notes to schedule a mindset and performance coaching discovery call with me. I thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the inner game of real estate success here once a month on the Keeping It Real podcast. If you found today's conversation valuable, share it with a friend, someone else who needs to hear this message. And if you haven't done so already, this podcast does a phenomenal job bringing on a diverse collection of experts in respective fields designed to help you be the best real estate agent, broker, or investor you possibly can be. Show it some love. Drop a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to today's episode. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next episode.